Hey guys, it's Eric. Over the last 9 months, I've been playing a game called Final Fantasy XIV. I've completed most of its endgame. I've done most activities in the game. I put about 750 hours into it. And with its recent growth and a huge influx of players moving from other games over or new players just trying the game out, I really wanted to make a video so that I could help maybe a new player or someone who's moving over from a previous MMO decide if it's the right game for them. And the way I wanted to do that is just make videos about each part of the important part of the game. So, for example, leveling, the social aspect, rating, PvP, things that someone might want to know. And today, this video is going to be about one of my favorite parts of any MMO, and Final Fantasy especially, which is going to be leveling. So let's get into it. There are about 4 reasons why I think you should level. Starting off, I just want to talk about the community and making friends. The community is really one of the best, I think, in the MMO. It's really easy to make friends because people are really friendly, and there's always certainly places where to fit in. You have places like the starting cities where people are going to hang around, wait for maybe friends to play with, or just, meet new people. Or, you have the tools in the game like the free companies where you can meet, free company leaders and hang out with some of your friends, or just even the group finder where you can find random people to do content with, which is really going to help you make friends and have people to play with, which is going to make your experience way better. The art, the exploration, the graphics, the environment of the game just looks so amazing. You're going to look at some of these shots, the lens flare, the way it looks just makes you want to go out to each corner of these zones and find these amazing places to just sit around and see some of the graphics. It really does make exploration fun without having to do some sort of incentive. The next part I want to talk about is the story, and this might be the biggest reason actually to play or Final Fantasy and to level. It's one of the best parts. Final Fantasy from 1 to max level is a complete journey with a complete story with memorable characters. You're gonna think of Final Fantasy more like a traditional RPG, like The Last of Us 2, or a PlayStation RPG where you're going to get an incredible story, but it's also an MMO. You can experience that story with other players, and in my opinion, it's the best part of leveling. It's something that everyone should experience. And the other part is gameplay. At first, combat is going to feel slow. It's got a very long global cooldown of about 2.5 seconds, but as you start to level, the more and more abilities that get added on make that global cooldown feel like it doesn't even exist. Combat in the later stages of the game feel more like playing a piano or playing Mozart's most advanced song, because you have to hit a million keys at once. It may sound too complicated for the average player, but even though they're complicated, they're very simple. It's very fun. It's worth the level just for the combat alone. One of my favorite rotations is just playing any DPS class, because it just feels rewarding to do good in that class. And then those 4 things are probably why you want to level. So let's get into what leveling has to offer. So we're going to talk about what you'll be doing while you're leveling, or what Final Fantasy has to offer while you level. And I mentioned earlier, the biggest part of Final Fantasy, and a lot of things that people love, and it's recommended and loved by most of its players, is its story. And while you're leveling, the biggest part is experiencing that story. So Final Fantasy consists of 4 ways to level. You have, your regular quests, your fates, dungeons, trials, or your instance content. I consider one category. And you have the main story quest, the way to experience the story as it's intended. The main story quest is a linear quest line that delivers many different types of quests, from escort quests to, your basic take one thing to another place, or talk to someone at a different place. Sometimes it can feel repetitive. Some people feel that it's boring, but it's what delivers the story. It's very similar, to what a traditional RP would be like. It's very important, even if you don't like the story that much, in the fact that it actually unlocks your dungeons, your trials, your instance content that you'll need to unlock no matter what level you are. And then it also unlocks the next zone. So once you hit max level in an expansion, you have to finish the story quest in order to go to the next expansion zone. One controversy of that is that there's a large amount of quests that reward almost no XP, that kind of halt your progress at the end of the expansion. This can total about 80 quests that can take a long time. I think it took me almost 2 days of nonstop playing or almost a day. It took me a while, and a lot of players sometimes they choose to hate it or even choose to possibly quit because of how much time it can take. And the reason I'm saying this is Final Fantasy is an MMO that requires a lot of patience, and this part's going to require a lot of patience. You can skip it, but I would recommend to get through it, because even the first the vanilla part of the game and that main story quest even is important for the newest expansion or the current expansion story. Without that, you'll kind of be lost. So the story is the best part of the game, and I highly recommend that you play the story because it's going to make your experience a lot better. But if you're someone who's like, I don't want to play the story, I really love the gameplay, it looks fun to me, I want to get to the end game, I want to experience raids, you can pay for a skip. I don't recommend it. First of all, you're paying money. Second of all, it's gonna skip so much that you'll be lost. But you know, if you do it, just know it's important. It's gonna take a while, but just be prepared for that, so that way you know, like, okay, I'm not in a race to get max level, I want to experience everything, because again, it's a journey that you can experience. Now the other parts are all optional. The main story quest is something you need to do. Everything else here is optional. And we're going to talk about blue quests or other quests in the game. Blue quests unlock helpful resources so that it'll help you throughout the game. For example, you can do your class quest, which will give you abilities for your class, and then unlock your job. For example, I mentioned this earlier, Gladiator, upgrading to Paladin. Other ways to level are fates. Fates are open world scenarios which reward XP and guild doing a task objective. While dungeons and trials are instant content done with the group, dungeons are usually 3 bosses that drop loot each boss, with some loot chests scattered throughout the dungeon. They're meant to do with 4 players to do a little bit easier content, even though they're still challenging, along with, you know, getting gear and upgrades, you know, for other content. Trials are usually a 1 boss dungeon, quote unquote, that its difficulty can be easy and become more difficult over time as you level. It's more of a challenging boss and can be reminiscent of a raid as you get closer to the 70s or so, where dungeons do get more difficult over time, but usually are seen as the easier content. Final Fantasy also has secret ways of leveling, like the hunting log or food XP buffs. And there's a lot of ways to level, and it gives a huge variety. Along with all the reasons why I said you should level, what leveling gives you is a huge variety. Even though you're most likely going to be doing the main story quest, if you ever get bored and you're like, it's just too repetitive, I don't want to do this, I want to take a break, if you still want to level while taking that break, you have other ways, as previously mentioned, and that's what makes leveling in Final Fantasy so great. Now, if what I mentioned is something in Final Fantasy XIV's leveling is something that interests you, and you asked, is now the right time to play? And absolutely yes, quite literally, it is the time to play. The time to play is right now, and that reason is there's a new expansion right around the corner called Final Fantasy Endwalkers, which is going to kind of basically end the story and bring a new light to Final Fantasy, or a beginning new story. So playing right now in this time of this video in June, it can take you about a month to level, will get you up to speed with the story into the end game and ready for Final Fantasy Endwalkers. So you can actually get into all the content. And if you're really like, I don't know if I want to spend the money, or you want to try it, Final Fantasy offers a free trial. It's literally a meme how often people recommend this. You may have already known. I'm just putting this down for the people who don't know, who really want to play. You can get a free trial, and at the same time, they're giving a XP bonus, along with using, you know, some of the food buff XP will allow you to level faster. So even if in this time in this video, it's around September, October, and you got about a month before the new expansion, you still have time. I would give it a try with the free trial without paying anything, and if you like it, to keep playing. And with that said, that's it for the video. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to comment. I'm always around. You know, always, my phone's always near me. I always can answer any questions you have, even if I'm not available at the time. Or you can even tweet at me on my Twitter, which is EGS Warrior. My YouTube name is also my Twitter name. And just tweet at me or message me any questions you have. You know, I'm always willing to help. But, you know, please also just like and subscribe to the video. I'm going to be making more videos, and especially this series of kind of reviews of each part of the game. So if you really want to learn more about Final Fantasy or what it's like, my next week video is going to be about end game or raiding, or, you know, what you'll be doing after you hit level 80. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you stopping by. First part of my videos on the series. Again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.